Please note the content of this podcast and this particular series is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute as medical advice. Please consult a licensed healthcare professional for guidance. Now on to the podcast. Hello, magical souls, and welcome back to another episode of Witchy Ways for Modern Days, your cozy little spiritual corner for all things witchcraft, healing, and spiritual growth here in the 21st century. I'm Brittany, your guide and fellow shadow walker here, and today we are building on the incredible groundwork that we laid last week. So if you have not listened to Shadow Work Part 1 yet, I highly recommend that you pause here and go back to listen to that one first. We talked a lot about what the shadow is, why it forms, how to recognize it, and how recognizing it can potentially change your life. Today's episode is all about sacred tools and rituals. Yay! You know, it's the good stuff. It is the good stuff. Sounds a bit boring, but I promise it will not be. We'll be exploring some practical and powerful ways to begin and or deepen your shadow work practice using spiritual/witchy tools. Because let's be real, shadow work is not just a psychological journey. It is an energetic journey as well. It deserves to be held with some form of sacredness and energetic support. So, we are going to go into this with open minds, open hearts, ready to learn, ready to see what will be most beneficial for our souls. So, whether you are brand new to this, or you've been doing shadow work for a very long time, for months, for years, my intention today is to give you a baseline toolkit, aka rituals, practices, and objects that you can return to again and again to help you with this work. Okay, take a deep breath, let it out, and we'll go ahead and start. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is creating a sacred container. Ooh, new terms. New terms are scary, but I promise they are worthwhile once you learn about them. So before we even open the door to any sort of deep shadow work, we need to build your sacred container. What is that? Think of it as your energetic boundary. It is your spiritual safety net. Why do we need this? Well, shadow work can stir up emotions, right? It stirs up memories that we maybe didn't have at the front of our consciousness. It can stir up sensations that feel quite intense or overwhelming. I'm going to use the analogy of like spelunking into the caves of your soul. So you're diving into the cave of your soul. You wouldn't go down there without a light, without a lantern and a rope. The same thing applies here. You don't do something drastic without giving yourself some form of escape and or safety net. So, this is how I like personally to set up my space and sacred container. First, I'm going to cleanse the space. So cleanse whatever space around me. That could be a meditation space. If you're doing this cross-legged on your bed, that's cool. You're going to cleanse your space using whatever you'd like. You can use smoke. So that could be sage. That could be rosemary. You can use lavender. You can use sound. Singing bowls, bells, clapping can work. Or sprays. So like the energy cleansing spray we sell, that you could use. You could also use oils. We do an oil version of that called the energy cleansing oil. There are a bunch of things you can do. Bunch of things. Once you've cleansed, you're going to cast a circle and or, depending on what terminology you want to use for this, you're going to call in your spiritual guide or your spiritual allies. We briefly touched on this before. So you're going to call in whatever guide, ancestor, deity. You could even call on your higher self to surround you with support, with love, protection, and clarity. So you're going to have that energy close with you as you go through this journey. Then I want you to ground yourself. Grounding is one of the most important things, and none of us do it as often as we should. We really don't. I personally am absolutely terrible at remembering to ground. I will go sometimes days, very spacey, very up in the clouds. I'm very much in my head and zoned out from physical realm because my mind is floating somewhere in spiritual realm, which is fine. That's how I do my practice. That's how I do my work. That's how I communicate with guides, etc. But you do have to remember to ground occasionally. We are still in human bodies. We are physical beings. So we can't just allow our consciousness to float away while we are tied to the earthly realm. It's never going to feel complete, or it's never going to feel comfortable if you are not completely grounded at least on a regular basis, right? So you can do my string behind the belly button version of the grounding. String goes all the way down to the core of the earth. You could do just bare feet. Take off your socks, take off your shoes. Bare feet on the floor. You can do this on grass. You can do this outside. That's earthing. That usually is better for a lot of people. If you are like me and nature is not necessarily your thing, you can put your bare feet on the floor. So your hardwood floors, your carpet, whatever. Put your hand on your heart and or on your womb space. So if you're somebody who has had a child or given birth, either, you can put your hand down to right over your womb, because you can ground from that. That energy has been established there. So you can either hold that or hold your heart, whichever one feels right to you. You could hold both potentially, one on each hand, one with each hand. Then you're going to take a few minutes of deep breathing in through the nose. We're going to hold it for 4 seconds. Then we're going to breathe it out. So in 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, out 4 seconds. Good. And now we're going to set the intention. I am safe. I am willing to see what is ready to be seen. I am doing this in love and in truth. This very simple pre-ritual sort of thing can shift your shadow practice from a version of overwhelming therapy to an act of soul reclamation. So you can shift your perspective on how difficult shadow work is by just shifting the intention enough to where you're doing it with love and with softness. You want to do it with love and softness. I promise it will be easier, and I promise it will not be as stressful. All right, now we're going to talk about tools, spiritual tools. I get asked this quite frequently. So the question is, do I really need crystals or candles or oils or sprays to do shadow work? The answer is no, but also yes. Let me explain. You don't need anything to begin the work, but tools can act as anchors. They help your psyche focus, they help the spirit settle, and they help the energy move. There are some people who don't need any tools. They are anchored in themselves. They have such strong ties to their spiritual being that they don't require that. Most of us will need at least one form of an anchor, just to make sure that we are doing it from a place of centered living and groundedness. Okay, so some of my favorite tools. Candles. Now, black candles are colors of the void. This is a black candle, would be the underworld, the womb of transformation. So lighting a black candle during shadow work is symbolic of bringing light into darkness. It is a simple, powerful, and deeply protective gesture. You could anoint your candle with an oil like we sell shadow work oil, so that would be what you would use for this. You could also use like soul healing, that would work. This is optional, so you could anoint the candle, say something along the lines of, with this flame, I light the hidden places within me. May truth be revealed with compassion and softness. So that is one thing that you could do. You could also use crystals for shadow integration. They can support us emotionally, they can support us energetically during any sort of deep inner work. A few of my favorites for this would be obsidian. So obsidian pierces like illusion, it can help reveal the truth. This is what we would consider to be our mirror stone, spiritually protective. Then there's labradorite, which can help protect the aura while you go inward, while you go deep. It is fantastic for deep spiritual journey. Then smoky quartz, of course, extremely grounding. It can ground heavy emotion quite well, in particular like fear, shame. It does help with trauma quite a bit. And then you could do moonstone. Black moonstone would be the best type, but not everybody has black moonstone, okay? You can use anything. You could use peach, you could use white, you could use rainbow moonstone, whatever floats your boat, whatever you have. So it can help uncover the female aspects of the shadow. So that is especially useful for very deep emotional and or ancestral or bloodline work within the shadow. So you can use a combination of these stones. You can use one of them, two of them, none of them. So you can place them in your lap. You can hold. You can build like a tiny little mini altar, just putting some in like a little circle or a line before you start to journal, before you start to do ritual. Now let's talk about this said journal. The journal work is essential. The shadow journal is your sacred space to spill, to process, and to record patterns while you're doing this. Keep it separate from any other journal. Keep it separate from any regular journal. It needs to be a ritual. So you're going to make it a ritual to write in this every time you're doing the work. Light a candle, play whatever music makes you calm, deep ambient music. It could be heavy rock music, whatever makes your psyche kind of sigh, play it, and then let your unconscious speak as you write down. And then the mirror, right? So yeah, literally a mirror. So you can sit in front of a mirror, look into your own eyes, speak to yourself. We touched on this last time. You can explain or you can admit to yourself, say to yourself, look in your eye, say what you are ashamed to admit, ashamed to speak of to anybody. Ask yourself in the mirror, what do I need to see? The mirror is a tool of truth, and it will reveal itself to you. This is an incredibly raw tool to use, the mirror. But it's incredibly powerful. The mirror work you might not want to do every time, just because it can be quite draining, because that is like the deepest version of inward reflection. But you're going to want to do it occasionally because it is beneficial. Now let's talk about rituals. So rituals are practices that you can do regularly. So you can do these weekly, you can do them monthly, you could do them seasonally, depending on how quickly you even want to do the shadow work, how overwhelming it is to do it in some sort of length of time. So these are practices to engage with your shadow in a safe and sacred way. You could do a shadow circle. So a shadow circle is something that you can do pretty much at any phase of the moon. The best phase of the moon to do a shadow circle in my opinion, is the new moon. So the new moon is it is a brighter energy, obviously, than a full moon. When the sky is dark, your introspective energy is quite strong with new moon. So it's quite naturally like a time to begin an inward journey. So an example ritual under a new moon, you can be inside or outside your home. Cleanse your space, number 1. Number 2, you're going to write down what motions, patterns, and wounds come up. Whatever wounds have come up recently, it doesn't have to come up right that moment. It could have been within the last week or so. Number 3, you're going to ask your shadow, ask yourself, what are you trying to show me? Number 4, you are going to write a letter to your shadow or your inner child. This does not have to be a long letter. This could comprise of 3 sentences. It could be a paragraph. It could be 14 pages. This is entirely up to you. Because number 5, once you've done that writing, you are either going to burn or bury that paper as a symbol of release and leaving it under new moon energy. That is one thing that you could do. Another way that you can do this, reflection, and this one's, I like doing this one. I should do it more often. It's really awesome. So it's called black water bowl scrying. This is a very ancient form of divination and reflection. So you're going to fill a dark bowl. It could be a cereal bowl, like it could be anything, right? Dark. Black preferably. Dark browns, dark purples and blues, those can work too. That's fine. In a pinch, those will work. So you're going to fill a dark bowl with water. You're going to add a drop of black ink. If it's not a pure black bowl. If it's a pure black bowl and the water looks black, you don't need to do anything. But if it's not quite that dark, you're going to have to add some form of black in order for the water surface to appear that color. And then at that point, you are going to stare into it in a dimly lit room. You're going to ask a question, watch the water, feel the water. Let any symbols or emotions rise and come to the surface as they will. This is a perfect way to access the unconscious, right? It's mostly a way of kind of zoning out in order to pull whatever little emotions or flashbacks or tiny pieces of visualization that pop up in your head that wouldn't normally do so. So that is a way that you can do it. It's very mystical sounding, which is one of the reasons I really do like it. Then, of course, we can talk about the deity and or guide that you have chosen to help you with this. The remainder of this podcast can be purchased at our Patreon, Witchy Ways for Modern Days.